Hello and welcome. Tonight, opposition People's Democratic Party asked President Muhammadu Buhari to resign over rising insecurity and poor handling of anti-corruption fight, but the ruling party disagrees. Federal government to close third Mainland Bridge by midnight for major repairs for the next 3 months. Another building collapses in Lagos, this time a 3-story structure in the Butemeta, and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson admits his government did not understand coronavirus during the first few weeks and months of the outbreak. Plus, business and news from Abuja, the FCT, and later from our studios in London.
On business news tonight, Nigeria's economy to grow by 2.0% in 2021 after a 3.7% shrink this year. That's according to latest forecast by Reuters.
On sports news tonight, English Premier League confirms September the 12th as start date for 2020-2021 season.
And from Abuja, former House of Representatives Speaker Yakubu Dogara returns to ruling APC, dumps main opposition PDP again.
Resign now. That's the message from the main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, to the president over what the party describes as the president's inability to tackle insecurity and attempt to sweep allegations of corruption under the carpet. PDP national chairman of the party, Mr. Uche Secondus, made these comments at a news briefing in the nation's capital, Abuja, today. According to Mr. Secondus, the situation has exposed the poor leadership of the country, according to him, the military and the ruling class. He also alleges that there are attempts by the government to sweep corruption allegations against members of the ruling APC under the carpet.
As an opposition party, the PDP has screamed endlessly to high heavens, but it is becoming very clear to all that the ears we are targeting are deaf. No attempt is being made from any corner to stem the frightening tide in our land. Nothing establishes the fact that there is no governance in our country more than the worsening state of insecurity. Both the military and political leaders of our country are now helpless. The free-for-all corruption going on all over the country leaves us with the impression that the country is dying. It is frightening, it is very disheartening that as the looting and relooting going on, no serious reaction is coming from government. Rather than confront the already exposed corruption cases, the government deliberately takes cautious steps to play it down with a view to protecting their members who are neck deep in the growing slides. Gentlemen of the press, Mr. President should do the honorable thing as required by law at this point in confusion and in total collapse of the way of lives of Nigerians, for him to throw in the towel, because Nigeria is on ventilator, gasping for air. Save our country now.
Meanwhile, the ruling All Progressives Congress has reacted to those comments made by the PDP chairman. The APC describes the call for President Buhari's resignation by the PDP as unintelligible rant, which is not unconnected with the impending mass defection set to hit the party. A statement by the APC Deputy National Publicity Secretary, Yakini Nabina, reads in part, "Nobody expects the PDP to provide ideas on good governance going by their inglorious past and antecedents. We only reiterate that the PDP stays quiet while the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration clears the rot they foisted on the country." It adds that Nigeria deserves a vibrant, purposeful and credible opposition, not the laughingstock it's been subjected to in the name of opposition PDP. It further explained that under the focused and sincere leadership of President Muhammadu Buhari, the APC is already delivering on key electoral promises of securing the nation, fighting corruption, and improving the economy and livelihood. Meanwhile, another statement released by the presidency says President Muhammadu Buhari will not resign and that he is determined to continue the crusade against corruption, both legacy and recently unearthed cases that are found to be shabbily handled and in some cases unattended to by past administrations. The statement by the president's spokesperson, Mr. Garba Shehu, says the PDP cannot scare the government from probing the grave allegations made against ministries, departments and parastatals and their chiefs because failure to do so will amount to a historical betrayal of public trust. And one of the accusations against President Muhammadu Buhari's government by the PDP is its ability to tackle insecurity. But the military says it's recording some victories in that regard. Today, defense authorities announced the killing of 17 armed bandits in the northwest, even though 3 soldiers lost their lives in Kaduna State. The coordinator of Media Operations Defense, Major General John Eneche, says the military remains unrelenting in its bid to rid the nation of insurgents and criminals. He reiterates the commitment of the military to also combat economic saboteurs engaging illegal refining of petroleum products in the Niger Delta region.
In the northwest zone, troops of Operation Hadarin Daji have continued with the aggressive clearance operation against the armed bandits. Within the week under review, troops of Operation Sahel Sanity in Shimfida village of Jibia local government area of Kaduna State neutralized 17 armed bandits. During the operation, troops recovered 5 AK-47 rifles and 152 rounds of 7.62 special ammunition. On a sad note, we lost 3 of our troops. Within the week under review, Nigerian Navy ship Pathfinder patrol team using drone discovered an illegal refining site around Cotton Channel. The site had 2 metal reservoirs laden with an estimated 300,000 liters of illegally refined AGO and a large wooden boat containing 3.14 barrels of product suspected to be stolen crude oil.
Meanwhile, some lawmakers in the Kaduna State House of Assembly say they are not pleased with the response to the cases of attacks by bandits in the southern part of the country. The lawmakers who belong to the PDP caucus allege that the state and federal government's response to the incessant attacks has been largely passive.
Worried over the incessant attacks and destruction of lives and property in southern Kaduna, the People's Democratic Party caucus in the Kaduna State House of Assembly is here to express displeasure over what they say is a failing security situation. For the minority leader of the State Assembly, government at all levels is not showing enough commitment at restoring lasting peace and forestall possible anarchy.
Government style both at the state and the federal levels in response to these attacks have been passive and nonchalant and have consequently emboldened the attackers with the usual narrative that the attacks are reprisals, but in no way condemning the attacks and the attackers. By the government approach, the attackers feel justified to continue with the attacks.
Another member of the Assembly and a retired military officer laments insufficient deployment of troops to the volatile communities in southern Kaduna, calls for the sack of the service chiefs.
You touch the issue of the military service chiefs. Look, as a military man, I think it is high time they went away. It is high time. When you have people that cannot deliver on the set goal, what importance are they?
For these legislators, in spite of who and what is responsible for the perpetual destruction in southern Kaduna, all hands must be on deck to quickly reverse the trend.
Staying with security, more reactions are still trailing video released by Boko Haram insurgents showing the murder of 5 aid workers. The latest reaction is coming from the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, as he condemns the killings in strong terms and calls on the Nigerian authorities to spare no effort in identifying and swiftly bringing to justice the perpetrators of these killings. Away from security, a woman who was trapped following the collapse of a three-story building in the Ebute Metta area of Lagos has been rescued. The acting coordinator, National Emergency Management Agency, Lagos Territorial Office, Mr. Ibrahim Farinloye, confirms that no life was lost in the incident, as many of the occupants rushed out of the structure before it caved in.
This used to be a three-story building used for residential as well as commercial purposes. It has now been reduced to a pile of bricks, and those who lived in this building as well as conducted business can only look from afar.
I was trying, and someone just came out from behind and started shouting, "The building is collapsing." So I left what I was doing and I checked, and I saw the building actually falling off from the side. So I told everyone in the kitchen to come out. So we were still working. That was within just like 50 seconds. I just heard a sound from the other side there. When I checked, it was glasses and some properties of people staying upstairs falling off. Before I could scream, at first I screamed, people came downstairs. The second time, before I could even scream and say what was happening, the whole building just collapsed.
They are not the only ones looking from afar. Neighbors and onlookers also look in shock. This young boy was barely saved by the bell.
When I heard that something do bow, and I run downstairs. When I run downstairs, finish, the thing I do bow, and I run.
Rescue efforts are well underway when we arrived at the scene of the disaster.
We received distress alert from the National Emergency line that there was building collapse at this place. We were going for something else before, we had to turn back. So the advance team got there. Though the first information we had when the advance team got there was that 2 people were rescued alive. But subsequently, upon further consultation on arriving here, information was released that only 1 person was rescued alive. And aside from that, when we did head count, called phone numbers of everybody, we confirmed that almost everybody were alive and outside the building.
So the second phase of the operation is to carry out a search rescue operations with a view to know whether there are still lives under the debris. So we conducted holistic approach. We conducted exercise by using sophisticated equipment, DELSA, that is called DELSA, to check if there are breath under the debris, and visual examination of the total structure. And at the end of the day, we discovered that there are no lives under the debris.
Building collapses in Lagos, Nigeria has been a reoccurring decimal, sometimes with lives lost and properties destroyed, leaving the government with limited options on how to curb the trend. Victoria Ido, Channels Television News.
If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television, Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Opposition People's Democratic Party asked President Muhammadu Buhari to resign over rising insecurity and poor handling of anti-corruption fight, but the ruling party disagrees. Federal government to close Third Mainland Bridge by midnight for major repairs for the next 3 months. Another building collapses in Lagos, this time a 3-story structure in Ebute Metta. And British Prime Minister Boris Johnson admits his government did not understand coronavirus during the first few weeks and months of the outbreak. Our website, channelstv.com, has more information on our top stories than others. Subscribe and watch Channels Television's live stream on YouTube and other social media platforms using your mobile device browser, or download the Channels TV app for Android and iOS devices from their respective stores. You can also watch us via your smart TV platforms on Apple TV, Android TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Barring any last-minute changes, the federal government will go ahead with the planned repair of the Third Mainland Bridge and will consequently be closing the bridge partially from midnight today. The repair work, which will see the replacement of 12 expansion joints and bearings, will span over a period of 6 months. Our correspondent visited the bridge and brings us this report.
Last-minute touches and preparations to close part of the much-anticipated and talked-about Third Mainland Bridge. These men and their agencies will be in the spotlight at the very least for 6 months. They hope for some that the federal government will rescind or move further the date of repairs is deemed, as the Third Mainland Bridge will be closed partially come midnight today.
The maintenance work is actually starting. We are closing this stretch of mainland bound, the stretch from Adeniji down to Ebutemeta. That is the stretch that will be shut down for the first phase of repairs.
While the various agencies responsible for traffic management and security say they are not unaware of impending inconveniences that the various repairs across the state would bring, the motoring public have been asked to endure through these times.
I want the public to be rest assured that we want to clean up our acts. So I just want them to be a little bit patient with us in generality. Let them just look at us as brothers, as sisters, working under extreme difficult conditions.
We are deploying about 250 officers and men, about 10 patrol vehicles that will be positioned at strategic places, critical gridlocks also, to ensure that our men take care of all those other routes. And of course, tow trucks will also be made available at certain areas where we envisage that there's going to be a breakdown, because all these things will be messed up if there is a breakdown and you don't promptly remove it.
A possible fallout of a prolonged gridlock on the roads could be an invitation to hoodlums. How would this be tackled?
We have mobilized more personnel, so to be seen on the road. So 2 things that we want to achieve. Number 1, Operation Keep Traffic Moving. Secondly, Operation Reducing Theft while in traffic. So we have deployed people now, in Mufti, to be on.
Cheer up, it won't be a total shutdown. The peak travel times have been considered, so there will be a 12-hourly shift on the use of the bridge. In the mornings, inbound Lagos Island traffic will use the bridge, while the return journey starts at noon every day for the first 3 months, as proposed, barring any last-minute changes. Olu Phillips, Channels Television News.
Now, the closure of the bridge will take effect in about an hour from now, or 2 hours from now. Let's join our correspondent, Olu Phillips, who is still there to give us a quick update on the situation. Olu, it's good to see you. It's the second longest bridge in Africa, the busiest in Lagos State. Does it appear that the federal and state agencies are ready for this exercise?
Olumide, thank you very much. Good evening, Nigerians. What we do know is that they have assured us, they've told us that they are ready for this exercise. It's a long haul, it's a long travel time, 6 months, and most likely it will be commissioned or opened for use again completely by January 2021. But this is what to note. If you are a commuting public, it's important for you to understand the protocols of travel. Now, what the schedule is this. If you are on the mainland, going to the island, you would have access on the bridge continuously between midnight every day and 11:55 a.m. Now, once it is 12 noon every day, those returning to the mainland will now have access priority on the Third Mainland Bridge. But this is what's going to happen when they are coming in, because we are standing right now at the Adeniji end of the Third Mainland Bridge. Now, so if you're coming in from the island at 12 noon and you want to go back to the mainland, that place you see that light showing, that's our light anyway. This is one of the issues. The Third Mainland Bridge lights are not on. That's our light, Channels TV light, showing you at the spot where you will make a diversion and begin to drive as if you're driving against traffic. Don't be afraid. at the Oworo end, vehicles coming into the island will have been stopped at midday. So if you're coming from mainland and you want to come onto the island, once it is 12 o'clock in the afternoon, please make use of alternative roads like Herbert Macaulay, Ikorodu Road through Carter Bridge, Ikorodu Road through Eko Bridge. That will be your alternative. And for those living on the island, pay more attention to this, because if you want to come to the mainland before 12 in the afternoon, please don't approach the third mainland bridge, because you can have access. Now, like you asked, are these people prepared? Are the agencies prepared? Well, there's some questions to ask. For instance, we're standing on the third mainland bridge at the Adeniji end. There is no street light working here. Whatever that has happened, this is not the situation we want to see over time. Now, you talk about those alternative roads like the Ikorodu Road, Inward Eko Bridge, I should say. The street lights around there are not working. Now, if you come around the Gomu Bridge area and the Orile area, trailers and trucks have found a parking heaven around that area. And this is calling on the Ministry of Transport, Commission of Transport in Lagos State. Please go get rid of those trucks and those articulated vehicles around the Gomu area. They are desecrating the environment. They need to move out of that place so that people can have a free flow of traffic. All of these things we want to see ease off in the first 1 or 2 weeks, that there will be a teething problem. Olumide.
Thank you, Olu. Our correspondent Olu Phillips in Lagos at the Third Mainland Bridge on the partial closure of the Third Mainland Bridge. Let's turn our attention to legal matters now. A federal high court in Abuja has ordered a former Minister of Petroleum Resources, Mrs. Diezani Madueke, to appear for arraignment on money laundering charges filed against her by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Justice Ijeoma Ojukwu made the order in a ruling on an ex parte application shortly after it was moved by the lawyer to the anti-graft agency, Mr. Farouk Abdullah. Now, Mrs. Alison Madueke is alleged to have escaped to the UK shortly after leaving office in 2015. The judge ordered her to appear in court to answer to the 13 counts of money laundering involving $39.7 million and 3.32 billion naira, said to be proceeds of unlawful activity. The judge adjourned the case till October the 28th for the defendant's arraignment. Also in the fight against corruption, counsel to Mr. Ibrahim Magu, the suspended chairman of the EFCC, says presidential panel today clarified its stance on Mr. Magu, saying it's on a fact-finding exercise and that Mr. Magu is not on trial. His lawyer, Mr. Wahab Shitu, says the panel has agreed to take Mr. Magu's defense and response at subsequent proceedings. He explains that his client appeared again at the villa today, where the panel gave them the assurance that it is not rejecting Magu's defense, but that it is premature to take some now. And also at the courts, or rather to the courts, Justice Ayokunle Faji of the Federal High Court today, Lagos, has struck out an application seeking to restrain the federal government from handing over National Theatre Lagos to Central Bank of Nigeria and the Bankers Committee. The judge held that the application filed by Top Wide Apsius Nigeria Limited has procedural defects, as it should have come by way of motion on notice rather than ex parte. The judge thereafter awarded a cost of 50,000 naira in favor of the first and second defendants, while other defendants are to be paid 20,000 naira each by the plaintiff on the grounds that his application lacked merit. And now to Abuja for our studios there, where Linda Ahigbe is with us for more stories. Hello, Linda.
Hello, Lumide. Welcome to Abuja. The president is back in the country after a one-day visit to Mali in search of a solution to the political crisis rocking the country alongside other West African leaders. At the end of the meeting, the chairman of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS, President Mahamadou Issoufou of Niger Republic, says the sub-regional organization will do all it can to mitigate the crisis. According to him, the sub-regional leaders agreed that there would be a need for compromise to protect the peace and integrity of the nation, adding that allowing the political crisis to fester in Mali would affect the security situation in West Africa, especially neighboring countries. Nigeria's former president, Goodluck Jonathan, was also commended by the ECOWAS chairman for accepting to lead an initial mission to Mali to broker peace and make findings. Barely hours after his return from Mali, the president hosted the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, who has dumped the PDP and returned to the ruling APC. Mr. Dogara's defection was confirmed by the acting caretaker chairman of the APC and Governor of Yobe State, Mr. Malabuni, after both men met with President Buhari. He explains that the president has welcomed Mr. Dogara into the fold and more former aggrieved members will be returning to the party.
We are here to see Mr. President and brief him on the development. The former speaker is a member of APC. And
what do you mean is?
He is because the reason for which he left the APC is no more there.
So is he back now?
Yeah, he's back.
So what did the president say?
No, he welcomed him. He's happy with the development. That's what he's looking for. Yeah, we are rebuilding the party, and these are the steps we are taking towards rebuilding the party. We are meeting all our aggrieved members, particularly who have interest in coming back to the party. They should feel free to do so. We are assuring them, and there is no crime in double assurance. We will do justice to all our members, and that's what will bring peace. That is what will guarantee peaceful coexistence. That is what will guarantee the consolidation of the party, the rebuilding of the party. Without doing justice, you cannot achieve that. And we are sure of doing justice to all manner of our members.
Part of 2023 strategy?
Well, of course, not only 2023 strategy. This party, we are rebuilding the party to outlive all of us. It's not about a specific time or period. It's not about election. It's not about electioneering. It is about building a party.
The PDP in Edo State says coronavirus pandemic has been taken into consideration as preparations continue towards a campaign rally scheduled to commence tomorrow, July the 25th, ahead of September 19th, 2020 governorship election. The event is billed to hold at the lawn tennis court at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium in Benin City, the Edo State capital. After inspecting the venue in the company of some other council members, the chairman of PDP Edo State Campaign Council, Mr. Dan Obi, commended the government's efforts in transforming the facility.
Well, you can see for yourself that everything is in place for tomorrow's flag off of the campaign of the re-election of Governor Godwin Obaseki. But what is important is that visiting here, you will agree with me that about 4 years ago, an event of this nature would never have been able to take place. But with what the governor has done, the whole world will see for themselves where we are holding this event, which is actually a takeoff point for the campaign that will bring about his re-election. This itself is evidence of the good work the governor has done. Well, it is clear that from the beginning, the governor has been in the forefront for people to know that COVID-19 is real. And from this arrangement, you can see clearly that we are not using the main stadium because we want to reduce the number of people that can come in here, because we are very conscious about the health of our people. The governor is a caring governor who is very concerned about the safety of Edo people. And that is why he has come here to personally see for himself the arrangement, which you will agree is also in compliance with the COVID-19 regulations.
We turn our attention to COVID-19 matters. The Kwara State government has announced the cancellation of Eid al-Adha congregational prayers across the state, citing the rise in the state's coronavirus cases and the risk of large gathering worsening the situation. The government also announced a ban on vigils in churches and mosques, while restating the ban on concerts, clubs, beer parlors and bars in hotels. The chairman of the COVID-19 committee, Mr. Kayode Alabi, also briefed journalists in Ilorin, the state capital, and says that the decision to cancel the Eid prayers was a painful but necessary one. Earlier, Kano State also announced the cancellation of the Eid prayers owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. Away from Kwara, Bauchi State government is going a step further and has imposed the mandatory use of masks in public places as it begins raising awareness on how to prevent the spread of coronavirus in the state. Members of the Bauchi State Task Force on COVID-19 took to the streets to create awareness and also engage stakeholders on the importance of wearing face masks in places of worship and business in Bauchi State. Our correspondent Hajara Haliyu reports.
More than 70 persons in Turun Ward, a suburb of Bauchi Metropolis, have been infected with coronavirus. The community has the third highest number of cases in Bauchi local government area after Denye Ward with 184 cases and Dawaki Ward with about 80 cases. The Contact Tracing and Surveillance Committee has sampled Turun among others for community active case search. It's a voluntary testing. Consent and case investigation forms must first be completed before taking the tests.
We need to go into the community and take the sample so that we'll be able to know that, look, Bauchi State has no coronavirus because I've gone to community and we're taking sample and find out that there are no cases. Tomorrow we are going to Kirpi and Ogoro area to start that activity for 2 weeks. We are going to do this work.
Before now, the Risk Communication Committee had gone round to sensitize the people. Perhaps this has prepared the ground for them to readily take the tests.
You see how people massively comes out. Definitely, this screening of COVID-19 is a wonderful development.
The health team meets with some women in this primary school and is simply obliged to be tested. While community testing is ongoing in 3 local government areas of the state, the government is also distributing 700,000 face masks to residents.
People are encouraged to personally, even at their homes, at their places of worship, at their places of businesses, not even government offices alone, to use masks.
Bauchi State appears set to aggressively curb the spread of the virus, and the aim is to flatten the curve and stop community transmission. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
Meanwhile, more drastic actions are coming into effect in Kaduna, where the state government has sealed social facilities and hotels across the state for operating against its protocols for reopening businesses. The facilities were shut down by the State Ministry of Business, Innovation and Technology during an inspection of their facilities. In the course of the exercise, the enforcement team met customers eating in restaurants, bakeries, and drinking inside hotel bars, thereby violating the guidelines allowing only takeaway or room service. Other violations by the hotels and restaurant operators include non-compliance with physical distancing, failure to install hand washers at the reception and other designated points, as well as failure to use face masks. And that's all from Abuja. Back to you, Olumide.
Thank you, Linda. Now, the Nigeria police say they have apprehended 2 more persons, Ayedun Akim and one Okpeoweye, who were allegedly involved in the inhumane treatment of a female citizen in a viral video which surfaced on social media on Wednesday. The video shows the woman rolling on the ground as she was being kicked about in handcuffs. The incident, which happened in Ibadan, was said to have been carried out by officers of the Nigeria police from Lagos, who trailed some criminal suspects to the Oyo State capital. This brings to 4 the number of persons now in police custody in connection with the incident. 2 police officers had earlier been arrested for their involvement in the case. According to a police spokesperson, Mr. Frank Mba, investigations are still going on, after which the internal disciplinary procedures of the force will commence for the affected officers. He explained that police detectives from the state CID party at Yaba, Lagos, have established contact with the female victim with assurances that justice will be done. And Labour matters. The Niger State chapter of the Nigeria Labour Congress has embarked on a 3-day warning strike following the expiration of a 7-day notice issued to the state government. In the state NLC explained that the action was called despite appeals and series of meetings. The government refused to augment the 30% balance of June salaries deducted from the salaries of workers in the state. The union has directed that civil servants who were scheduled to appear before the State Salary Management Committee between today and Tuesday to boycott the screening. One of the suspects who escaped from the custody of the Nigerian Correctional Service in Plateau State on Thursday morning has been rearrested by the army. The rearrested suspect, Mohammed Ibrahim, was one of the 6 suspects freed by their gang members when they, alongside other suspects, were conveyed by Correctional Service officials from Jos to a state high court in Barakinla, the local government area of the state. And now it's time for business news. Here's Teniola Chobowale.
Thanks, Olumide. Welcome to Business News. Africa's biggest economy, Nigeria, is expected to bounce back by 2.0% in 2021 after a 3.7% shrink this year due to the effect of COVID-19 in the country. That's according to latest forecast by Reuters. Following months of lockdown to curb the spread of the virus and an economic shock witnessed due to the fall in crude oil prices, the report shows that Nigeria's external and fiscal buffers will help the economy witness a recovery in 2021. Similarly, continental pair South Africa is also expected to grow by 3.5% following an 8.0% contraction this year. However, Ghana, one of the continent's oil exporters, is still expected to grow by 1.9% this year and 4.2% in 2021. The Sokoto State Governor Aminu Tambuwal signed the 164 billion naira 2020 revised budget. The budget, according to the State Commissioner of Finance, Honorable Abdulsamad Dasuki, was revised from over 200 billion naira due to the resultant effect of COVID-19 pandemic in the country. It reveals the state government has provided tax reliefs and incentives for taxpayers and businesses in the state to cushion the effect of the pandemic on residents. To some company news now, industrial giants Dangote Group has reported a good half-year earnings, posting a 476.8 billion naira filed in the same period of 2019. In the unaudited financial statements released through the Nigerian Stock Exchange today, the group stated that the plants across its subsidiaries continue to operate during the lockdown period, which the federal government imposed to curb the spread of COVID-19 in the country, which led to a consolidatory 162.8 billion naira in its profit before tax. Also, its overall profit for the period rose to 126.1 billion naira from the 119.2 billion naira reported in the first half of 2019. Similarly, Dangote Cement reported a strong second quarter earnings, with its revenue growing by as much as 227.6 billion naira. Trading on the local equities markets returned negative despite a positive market breadth, but investors gain inched up by about 73 billion naira week on week. Chimeze Obi Wagu tells us more.
Welcome to the Stock Market Report. It appears the gain recorded in the market yesterday was just a mirage. The more we look, the less we see. What happened in the market today buttresses the fact that investors are still very cautious in putting their money in the equities market. And so the market couldn't sustain Thursday's gain. The index was down 0.34%. Seplat is to be blamed for this. Seplat lost by 10%, pulling the oil and gas sector down by as much as almost 5%. Look at the industrial sector, down 1.01%, all because of Bua Cement. By the way, good results there from Dangote Cement. The group's top line saw some slight improvement of about 2%, improved profit after tax and EPS. Investors seemed impressed with that result, but chose to remain cautious. So what we saw on the stock was no selling, no buying. Activity is still lackluster. In 3,723 deals, a total volume of 174.2 million shares were traded for a little over 2 billion naira. Generally, it's not a bad week at all, particularly with Dangote Cement's performance on Thursday. So the week closed positive by about 0.50%. Next week, we'll see more results coming, and hopefully they'll be such that can push the market up as desired. And that was the stock market report. I'm Chimeze Obi Wago.
And that's Business News Tonight. It's back to you, Olumide.
Welcome back. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has acknowledged that his government did not understand the coronavirus pandemic during the first few weeks and months of the outbreak, as there are still very open questions about whether the lockdown had started too late. He says maybe things could have been done differently. Here are more stories with Around the World in 5 with Simon Pusey.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. India has recorded over 49,000 coronavirus cases, a single-day record, bringing the country's total number to 1.2 million. That's according to the Health Ministry. India is the world's third worst affected country and is currently experiencing a rise in cases after relaxing some lockdown rules. Many experts have said that testing levels remain low in the country, which means the extent of the pandemic could be worse than is being reported. Meanwhile, in England, face coverings have become compulsory for customers in shops after new coronavirus rules came into force within 12 hours of the government issuing guidance on the change. Police can hand out fines of up to £100 to those who do not comply.
Use of face masks, the use of all the social distancing measures really does depend on our ability collectively to get the pandemic right down and to keep it down.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has announced that state schools across the country will close for a month following a surge in cases. The measure will come into effect on Monday, and students from poorer families will continue to have meals provided for them by the government during the break. China has ordered the closure of the US consulate in the southwest city of Chengdu in a tit-for-tat escalation between the two countries. China said the move was a necessary response to the US, which ordered China to close its consulate in Houston earlier this week. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the US decision was taken because China was stealing intellectual property. Protesters have faced tear gas and federal agents outside the Central Police Precinct in Portland as Black Lives Matter demonstrations have continued for a 56th consecutive day. Rising smoke and sparks from stun grenades were seen surrounding the protesters, many of whom were carrying umbrellas and American flags, as an announcement from the Federal Protection Service was heard warning the demonstration was considered an unlawful assembly. Meanwhile, every member of the Washington Nationals and New York Yankees took a knee to protest racial inequality prior to the playing of the U.S. national anthem at the first game of the Major League Baseball season. And a statue of Italian explorer Christopher Columbus has been removed from a Chicago park after an executive order by the city's mayor. Several statues of Columbus have been removed across the United States in recent weeks, along with Confederate Civil War monuments. In Turkey, the former museum, Hagia Sophia, has welcomed worshippers for the first time after being turned back into a mosque. Muslims prayed in Hagia Sophia until 1934, when it became a museum. But a Turkish court recently annulled the decree that turned it into a museum, opening the way for the 6th century building to be converted back into a mosque, a move backed by Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. The Kurdish-Iranian exile and writer Behruz Boochani, who was held in an Australian-run offshore island detention camp for about 6 years, had been granted refugee status in New Zealand. Boochani arrived in New Zealand about 8 months ago to speak at a literary festival and has stayed in the country despite his visitor visa expiring. Boochani has said that while he is happy to have been granted refugee status, he cannot celebrate fully due to the continued existence of Australia's refugee policy, which affected him for 6 years. About 85 refugee children with serious health issues and their families have arrived in Germany as part of an initiative to relocate unaccompanied minors from Greece to the European Union. The young asylum seekers, some of whom were accompanied by their parents, came from overcrowded camps on Lesbos, Chios and Samos islands. Greece hopes to send some 1,600 unaccompanied minors in the coming months to EU countries. A prominent South Sudanese economist has fled to the US and has accused South Sudan's President Salva Kiir of ordering a hit squad to kill or kidnap him in Kenya. Peter Bayer Ajax moved to Nairobi in February after about 18 months in prison in South Sudan. He was pardoned in January of charges he had disturbed the peace by speaking to the foreign media. While thanking President Donald Trump for giving him refuge, he has also called on the US to impose additional sanctions against corrupt South Sudanese officials. And finally, Major League Baseball has restarted with the top US infectious disease specialist Dr. Anthony Fauci throwing a pretty wayward ceremonial first pitch.
And in memory of all those who have lost their lives during the COVID-19 pandemic, we welcome Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Fauci's effort drew light-hearted comparisons to other celebrities whose attempts were not the most accurate, including Carly Rae Jepsen and rapper 50 Cent. Fauci, who is a die-hard Nationals fan, performed the honors at the team's park ahead of their game against the New York Yankees. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. The Cycling Federation of Nigeria says it's thrilled with the progress of the sport in the country. The president of the Cycling Federation of Nigeria, Gian Domenico Massari, said the federation will ensure the hosting of the second edition of the Africa Cup becomes a reality despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Scottish side Rangers FC have announced the signing of Super Eagles defender Leon Balogun on a one-year deal with an option for a further year. Balogun arrives in Glasgow with experience both in the Premier League with Brighton and Hove Albion and in the German Bundesliga with Werder Bremen and Mainz, and completed last season with Wigan Athletic. The English Premier League has agreed to start the 2020-21 season on September the 12th. According to the body, the final match round of the campaign will take place on May the 23rd, 2021. The Premier League said it will continue to consult the English FA and the English Football League regarding the scheduling of all domestic competitions. And that's sports news.
Thank you, Ayo. Just before we go, the Nigerian Air Force says it has officially handed over the Nigerian police to the Nigeria Police the 3 suspects involved in the accident that led to the death of flying officer Tolulokpe Arotile. A statement by the Director of Public Relations and Information, Nigerian Air Force, Air Commodore Ibukile Daramola, says the handover of the suspects, who are Mr. Nehemiah Adejo, Mr. Gbekile Folorunsho, and Mr. Festus Beregun, took place at the NAF base, Kaduna, and supervised by the Commander 453 Base Services Group, Group Captain Hadi Ahmed. And the main news again. Opposition People's Democratic Party today asked President Muhammadu Buhari to resign over rising insecurity and poor handling of anti-corruption fight, but the ruling party disagrees, describing it as unintelligible rant. And that's it on the news at 10 tonight. I'm Olumide Macaulay. Thank you for watching.